Here's what I think. Don't come for Christmas, my mother stated in a calm voice. We'll act like we don't know you. That will make it easy. I stood there in my kitchen, holding a tin of homemade fudge that I had carefully wrapped the night before. The air smelled like cinnamon and cocoa. I had already written the gift tags, packed my bag, and bought my train ticket 2 weeks ago. But there I stood, staring at the tile floor while her words resonated through me like a hollow bell. She didn't sound mad. She didn't even sound upset. She just sounded practical, like she was giving me fashion advice or telling me to purchase paper towels. It was as if deleting me was just another thing on her holiday to-do list. I gulped down hard. Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart, she said fast, too hastily. It's not about you. You know how things can become complicated when Jake brings his fiancée and Uncle Jim keeps asking questions and you are, well, you know. It's absolutely the finest. I didn't get what that meant. What did I mean? A long pause, then came the classic, it's just complicated. That was always her way of closing a door without slamming it, gentle on the surface, sharp underneath. Okay, I said. Just that, no questions, no begging. I set the tin of fudge down slowly and walked to the window. Outside, a soft December snow was beginning to fall. The world looked quiet and clean, like it hadn't heard what I just did. That's when I knew this year would be different, not because I was excluded, but because I was finally done pretending I ever belonged. My name is Willow Brooks. I'm 32 years old, an administrative assistant at a nonprofit in Boston. I've spent most of my adult life trying to be what everyone needed: reliable, helpful, quiet, the one who sends birthday cards, the one who shows up early, the one who never complains. But that day, standing in my kitchen with a tin of fudge meant for people who didn't want me around, something in me shifted. It wasn't just sadness, it was clarity. If my presence could be erased that easily, then maybe I had never really been seen in the first place. Growing up, I was always the miracle. That's what my mother used to call me when we visited neighbors or church friends. Our little blessing, she'd say with a smile, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. I was adopted at birth, brought into their home when doctors told them they might never have children. For a little while, I believed the title was real. Then Jake was born, 2 years younger, their biological son, the one who inherited Dad's eyes and Mom's sense of humor, the one whose milestones were documented in photo albums while mine were scribbled in the back of a drawer. After Jake, I wasn't the miracle anymore. I was just Willow, quiet, dependable Willow, the helper, the placeholder. I didn't throw tantrums. I didn't make demands. I said, thank you for hand-me-down clothes and clapped the loudest when Jake made varsity. I helped with dishes, made honor roll, and got into college on scholarships. I worked 2 part-time jobs through school and never once asked for help. And every holiday, I still came home with gifts, baked goods, and the hope that maybe this time I'd feel like I mattered. I even sent money. After my dad passed away, I started wiring a portion of my year-end bonus to help my mom with the mortgage. I never mentioned it, never asked for credit. It was just what you do for family, right? Except somehow, I never really felt like family. The only person who ever made me feel like I truly belonged was my grandmother, Evelyn Harper, my mom's mother, a woman who didn't believe in performance or pretense. She was the first to notice that I preferred books to dolls, the one who sent me handwritten letters even when I lived 20 minutes away. She called me her quiet light. When I graduated college, she pulled me aside, pressed her old ruby ring into my palm, and whispered, "Blood doesn't define love." I never forgot that. Evelyn saw me, the way I hung back at gatherings, the way I was always asked to take the photos, but never be in them, the way my name sometimes appeared last minute on gift tags, if it was there at all. In her house, I wasn't an accessory. I wasn't a problem to explain away. I was just me. But in my mother's home, everything was about appearances. Jake's girlfriend had to look perfect in photos. Uncle Jim's new partner had to be impressed. Everything had to be curated and controlled, and I was the awkward piece that didn't fit the image: single, childless, adopted, quiet. So when my mom said not to come this year, I didn't fight, because deep down, I'd always known I was only family when it was convenient, and that kind of love wasn't really love at all. After I hung up that day, I didn't cry. I didn't scream or break anything or call a friend to vent. I just stood there in the soft glow of my apartment's Christmas lights, listening to the silence settle like dust. It wasn't the silence of loneliness, it was the silence of recognition. I had spent 32 years trying to be small enough to fit, polished enough to be included, quiet enough to avoid being a burden. And now, finally, they had said out loud what they'd been showing me all along. I wasn't really one of them, and they didn't want to pretend otherwise anymore. So I didn't either. I walked over to my laptop and opened my banking app. The monthly transfer I sent to my mother for utilities? Cancelled. The grocery gift card I had scheduled to arrive on Christmas Eve? Voided. The engraved leather planner I'd ordered for Jake, his initials already monogrammed? Returned. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I was done pouring into a well that had no bottom, done wiring my love into a space that never held it. I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't send a pointed email. I didn't even tell anyone. I just stopped, quietly, deliberately. For the first time in my life, I allowed the silence to grow, and I didn't rush to fill it. In the days that followed, I avoided the usual holiday rituals. No tree, no sugar cookies, no reruns of It's a Wonderful Life. Instead, I cleaned out drawers, rearranged my bookshelves, went on long walks through the frozen neighborhood park. I watched the kids down the street build snowmen and noticed something unexpected. I didn't feel left out. I felt free. It wasn't that being uninvited didn't sting, it did, but choosing not to go back, that was power. That was the part they hadn't anticipated. They thought I'd be hurt. They thought I'd beg. But instead, I found something else, something no one had ever offered me during the holidays. Peace. I stopped performing. I stopped trying to earn a space at their table. I stopped waiting for a seat to open up. Instead, I sat on my own couch, cup of peppermint tea in hand, legs curled under a blanket I'd crocheted myself, and felt the warmth of something I couldn't name. It was the beginning of the end, not of a family, but of the role they'd assigned me. The convenient daughter, the silent supporter, the one who would never make waves. That version of me? She didn't live here anymore. It was the morning of December 29th when my phone rang again. I was curled up on the couch, watching snow drift past the window. The holidays were officially over, and for the first time in years, I wasn't recovering from some kind of emotional whiplash. I was just still. The caller ID showed an unknown number, but it had a local area code. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up. Miss Brooks, a calm, professional male voice asked. Yes, this is she. My name is Thomas Callahan. I'm an attorney handling the estate of Miss Evelyn Harper, your grandmother. I sat up, instantly alert. I hope I'm not disturbing you, he said. I attempted to contact your mother first, but she didn't answer. I'd like to schedule a meeting with you. There's a matter in Mrs. Harper's will that concerns you directly. I blinked, unsure how to respond. I thought her affairs were already settled. The funeral was weeks ago. There was an addendum, he explained, a sealed document that Mrs. Harper requested be opened only after the holidays. It names you as the primary beneficiary. I couldn't speak for a moment. Would you be available this afternoon? I said yes. A few hours later, I walked into a quiet office with dark wood walls and a grandfather clock ticking softly in the corner. Mr. Callahan greeted me with a warm handshake and motioned for me to sit. He slid a folder across the desk. These are certified copies of your grandmother's will and the addendum. She made several revisions in the last few months of her life. I opened the folder and scanned the documents, expecting maybe a few heirlooms or a note, but then one line stopped me cold. All assets, including the residence at 724 Hemlock Lane and all financial holdings totaling $820,000, are to be inherited solely by Willow Brooks, my granddaughter, not by blood, but by love and loyalty. I pressed my hand to my mouth. She left everything to me? She did, Mr. Callahan confirmed gently. There's more. He handed me a second sheet of paper, a handwritten letter in my grandmother's elegant cursive. If Willow is ever made to feel like she does not belong, if she is excluded, diminished, or made invisible by this family, let this inheritance be my answer. She was always mine, and I want the world to know it. This gift cannot be contested or divided. Let no one benefit from her pain. I stared at the page, the words blurring through my tears. She had known. She had seen it all, the way I was always in the background, the things no one ever said aloud but always showed in silence, the patterns I had tried for so long to excuse. She saw, and in the end, she gave me not just her home, but something deeper. She gave me proof that I had been loved fully, quietly, unconditionally. By the time I got home from Mr. Callahan's office, I had 5 missed calls from my mother and 3 text messages from Jake, all with the same tone: shocked, confused, and carefully worded to sound concerned. "Mom, why didn't you tell us? We could have discussed this. You knew Grandma was sick. Jake, there has to be some mistake. Grandma would never leave us out, not unless someone influenced her." I didn't respond. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. My mother stood there in a pristine winter coat, pearls at her neck, her expression a mix of hurt and expectation. Jake stood just behind her, arms folded, jaw tight. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "We just want to talk," my mom said, as though I were the one who had shut them out. She launched into it immediately. She was confused, Willow. She hadn't been herself for months. "Maybe the lawyer misunderstood something." "Maybe you did." "She wrote it," I said softly, "by hand, and she meant every word." Jake stepped forward, red-faced. "So what? You're just going to keep everything? The house, the money? You think that's fair?" I looked at him, at the brother who never visited Grandma unless it was for a holiday photo, who never helped drive her to appointments or listened to her talk about old books or garden plans. "She left it to me," I said. "She knew what she was doing, and she made it legally final." "You're being selfish," my mom snapped, her tone turning sharp. That word. After years of giving without asking, of folding myself small to make room for them, now I was selfish. "No," I said clearly, "I'm being honest." They stared at me, as if waiting for me to break, to backtrack, to offer to split everything down the middle just to keep the peace. But I wasn't here to keep the peace anymore. "She saw me," I continued, "when none of you did, and she gave me what I had never been given: a place, a home, a name spoken with love." My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Jake glanced at the floor. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam the door. I just let it click shut behind me, and for the first time since childhood, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt like mine, no longer borrowed, no longer conditional, just mine. And I was done apologizing for claiming it. 2 weeks later, we met again, this time not at my front door, but in Mr. Callahan's office. They had requested the meeting to clarify misunderstandings, though everyone in that room knew exactly what this was. My mother arrived, dressed like she was attending a lunch fundraiser, flawless makeup, pearl earrings, her voice syrupy sweet. Jake wore a stiff gray suit that didn't quite fit, his expression stuck somewhere between disbelief and quiet fury. I walked in wearing a simple navy blouse and jeans, no makeup, no pretense, just me, holding a single sheet of paper, my grandmother's letter, in my bag. Mr. Callahan started the meeting with calm professionalism. He restated the terms of the will and the addendum, emphasizing that the inheritance was final, legally binding, and non-negotiable. My mother smiled politely. "We're not here to fight," she said, folding her hands. "We just hope Willow might reconsider, out of fairness." Fairness. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Fairness had never come up when I was asked to take the photos, but not be in them. It hadn't mattered when I ate alone on Christmas or when Jake's name was written beautifully on a gift box while mine was scribbled in marker. Fairness, I repeated. "That's what this is about now?" Jake looked up. "We're still family," he said. "This doesn't have to tear us apart." I met his gaze and spoke slowly. "Family doesn't ask you to disappear because you're inconvenient. Family doesn't pretend you don't exist to avoid awkward conversations." Neither of them had a response. I continued, "I spent 30 years trying to earn a seat at a table I was never really invited to, and now I have my own, one that was built not on obligation, but on love, one that my grandmother made for me with her words, her home, and her trust." Mr. Callahan glanced at me, then reached for the letter. I offered him the original handwritten note from Evelyn. My mother opened her mouth again, but I raised a hand gently. "I won't contest anything," I said, "but I also won't forget." Then I stood. That was it, no yelling, no drama, just truth. I walked out of that office, not as someone who had won something, but as someone who had finally stopped losing, stopped fighting to be seen, stopped shrinking to make others more comfortable. And in that quiet ending, I found something far more powerful than revenge. I found peace, not the kind you earn, the kind you claim. That spring, I moved into the house on Hemlock Lane. It was smaller than I remembered from childhood visits, but it felt warmer somehow, like the walls had been waiting for me. The hardwood floors creaked in the same places. The kitchen still smelled faintly of lavender and cinnamon, just like Evelyn's baking. And in the corner of the living room sat her old armchair, facing east, where the morning sun always touched first. I kept it exactly where it was, not as a monument, but as a reminder. The ring she gave me stayed on my finger, not as a symbol of wealth, but of something more enduring, her belief in me, her quiet loyalty that no one could rewrite. Some weekends I gardened, other times I read for hours. Sometimes I did absolutely nothing at all, and for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like I had to earn my rest. I didn't need to host dinners that no one would attend. I didn't need to chase approval that would never come. I simply lived. The holidays rolled around again, as they always do, but this time, I didn't wait for an invitation that never meant anything. I lit a candle. I made a small meal. I placed a sprig of rosemary by the window and whispered, "Thank you." And I felt her with me, not in grand gestures, but in the stillness, in the light on the floorboards, in the tea kettle warming again on the stove, in the space I no longer had to fight for. People think revenge has to be loud, that it has to be filled with shouting, slammed doors, and dramatic declarations. But I've learned that the most powerful kind of justice is quiet. It's walking away without making a scene. It's choosing peace over performance. It's refusing to shrink for people who only ever wanted a smaller version of you. I didn't call my family after that meeting, and they didn't call me. Eventually, through a distant cousin, I heard that Jake was bitter, that my mother told her church friends there had been a misunderstanding with the will, that they were blindsided. Maybe they were, but not by me. They were blindsided by a truth they never wanted to face, that the daughter they treated as disposable was the only one their own mother trusted with everything. And so, to anyone out there who has ever been told you don't belong, remember this. You do, even if they don't see it, even if they never say your name. You can still choose to see yourself. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you'll ever say is nothing at all. If this story touched something in you, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because your voice, no matter how quiet, carries power.